history as a tool, as a platform for the future. If you don't mind, sir, I'm going to suggest that sometimes it's not as much as people are lying in history as two key things occur. The first is they do exactly as you have suggested. They have incomplete information and draw improper conclusions from what they know. And so it's an incomplete history. The second thing is that history is often mistold by the art or the photographic capture of history, because it's always one of the great lines came from the movie of Hamilton, where it says, you know, the victor who lives, who tells the story. And sometimes the people telling the story will tell it from their perspective only. I'm an airborne ranger, and one of the things that we have to do is, when you go recon an objective, you can't go to one spot and describe on the objective. You're required to go literally all around it, or as much as you can, so you have a complete picture of what it looks like and understand it. Sometimes our history stops short, and people that want to complete their narrative get just enough to share that perspective. And if I could do a tag team with you, as I told the folks earlier, I live 6 blocks from the landing at Old Fort Comfort, Fort Monroe. I lived there for over 9 years. The house that Ridgeway was raised in, my son lived in. And so you get those stories that comes with history from people whose, I'm gonna use a word, whose diddy or granddaddy may have been in that space. And then you have to go back and, to your point, get multiple perspectives of fact to get to a conclusion that is meaningful. So I'm committed to you in that sense, but I always look at history at the very end with those 3 questions that are always asked. The first one being, is it true? Do you have elements of firsthand knowledge? And then the third part is, why should I care? And so that's kind of the perspective that I look at it. And again, I told these gentlemen earlier, my rationale is to try to change a person's perspective of things that matter to them and or matter to me in our conversations. And at the core for me, it's the things that matter into making our nation and my community greater. And to that end, I'm with any group persons who is like-minded.
Now, what years were you stationed at Fort Monroe?
Yeah, from 1993 through 96-ish, from 2003 to 2010.
In your first stint at Fort Monroe, were you aware of the African-American history at Fort Monroe?
Yeah, my first time, because I was I forgot the name of the parapets, but they got the case mounts. When I saw those, I was intrigued as an infantryman to see what that would feel like and look like. Then I found out that was also the place that base was designed principally by Robert E. Lee, and then it was also the place that Jefferson Davis was held. And more importantly, since 18, that fort has never been in Confederate hands, even though it was in the heart of the Confederacy. And actually, as long as we were there, it was not going to go away. But some folks didn't quite understand it, so we started looking at it from his perspective. And my first inclination was this: why would the first settlement and because some folks turn first settlement into first landing site, and I couldn't see anybody. Why would you bypass the natural landing spot or the beaches of Buckrow and Fort Monroe and go all the way inland to Jamestown? So when people started talking about the actual landing site where the trade took place of the enslaved persons that was held on that, and it wasn't even a ship, it was basically a I don't want to call it what's the right name for the type of ship that comes off of the little boat you use off a ship to come to what'd you call it?
The shallow.
A scallop,
Yeah,
or
so
a skiff?
A skiff. There was actually a skiff that came there with, they basically traded goods. Yeah. They traded human beings for goods at that site. So to your point, I had an inkling and understanding, because my interest was tweaked by the fact that Jamestown was almost 20 plus miles down the mouth. And if this is and if you're at this location, why go that far in? And so again, anyhow, yes.
Yeah. Well, let me just give you a brief history of 1607. When the three ships arrived from England, they went to Virginia Beach, which is on the port side, left side of the Chesapeake Bay. And that night, they got attacked by the Native Americans who were hiding in the trees, and they killed one of their commanding officers. This was April 26, 1607. They then decided that they needed to find safe harbor, so they got back on their ships and went back out into the Hampton Harbor. And on April 26th, they landed at present-day Hampton, Virginia, where they met what they call the friendly Indians. And people don't know the history, but I try to teach it to them and tell them that those three ships with Captain John Smith, Captain Newport, and Captain Gosnold stayed in present-day Hampton for 2 weeks before they even traveled to Jamestown. And the reason why they left Hampton was because their instructions from England was, we want you to find an inland safe harbor to protect yourselves from Spanish ships. So that's why they left Hampton, went 20 miles up the James River, and established Jamestown. And it's hard to get people to understand the history. I keep telling them, you got the history of Jamestown wrong, and we've got the primary documents to prove what I'm saying. So that's the reason why people think that they bypassed Buckrow. There was no settlement at Buckrow Beach at that time. The only settlements they saw was at Point Comfort, and there was no settlement at Virginia Beach because the Native Americans, they had encampments inside the tree line. So that's why they left Hampton and they went to Jamestown.
So in that
makes perfect sense.
So Stuart-Sinclair Weeks, perhaps you can introduce your audience who you are and who we are and why we're here.
Thank you. I'd like to say a little bit more about what we have planned for Juneteenth. And out of the conversation with Arnold, I think we have a very exciting possibility to build the bridge once we get clear. And I'm grateful that, Calvin, you're making the time so we can seek that clarity to build the bridge to, if it's meant to be January 6th. But
December 6th. December 6th.
December 6th, my apologies. But let me just give you a fuller picture of what's happening on Juneteenth. We haven't yet put together the whole schedule, but we're going to be honoring the Negro slave poetess Phyllis Wheatley, who I would say, as some of you may know, ordained George Washington as a generalissimo of the Continental troops. There was an extraordinary relationship between this Herculean figure, George Washington, this big, strong, white male figure, and the slender, slight, genial former Negro slave poetess Phyllis Wheatley. So we'll be touching on that whole mystery. He had the highest respect for her and she for him. And in ordaining him as Generalissimo of the Continental troops, she also, in a poem that I can make available to anybody who would like it, she also warned him that he needed to be on his best behavior, so to speak. We'll also speak to the Afro-Native Crispus Attucks, who was one of the first to fall in the American Revolution. We will be presenting copies of the Declaration of Independence with an addendum that would be fashioned by leading representatives of major Black organizations, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the National Association for Colored Peoples, the Advancement of Colored Peoples, Tuskegee, and different organizations with whom we're working. The addendum will address these words that all men are created equal. What happened? How are we to understand it? Why did it happen? What do we do about it? There'll be a ceremonial reading of the epitaph of the former slave in Concord, John Jack, which has been recited around the world, a remarkable epitaph on his gravestone. We will be honoring belatedly George Washington Duggan, our fellow Black Concord citizen and Civil War veteran, who has yet to be included on Concord's Civil War monument, his name among those veterans who offered up their own last measure of devotion. We'll also be speaking of the historic deeds of Concord's esteemed predecessor to Rosa Parks, that is the Black educator and civil rights activist Ellen Garrison, who tested the nation's first Civil Rights Act in court almost a century before Rosa Parks took her seat on an Alabama bus. Ellen sat in a segregated waiting room in a Baltimore train station and was forcibly ejected. Ellen noted she felt it was her duty to test the new law and wrote, I feel as though I ought to strive to maintain my rights. It will be a stand for others. So nearly a century before Rosa Parks took her stand, Concord's Ellen Garrison took a stand that we'll be honoring. We'll also have an offering on Frederick Douglass's historic Concord address that served to launch his celebrated career. And we will be announcing a new all-American anthem, not to replace our national anthem for those who want to hold on to the bombs bursting in air and the unfortunate racist undertones of that anthem, but we will be introducing an all-American anthem, so not to replace our national anthem, but beside it, and we'll be calling on all the peoples of the different races and ethnic groups that make up our country to contribute a verse to this all-American anthem. And we'll be also reading from the Concord Covenant to establish the Concord Fellowship, which looks to what unites us as opposed to divides us. And this is all setting the stage for the inauguration of the citizens movement to revive the spirit of public service. So it's more than just one panel on Juneteenth. It may go into a subsequent day, but this gives a glimpse of what we're looking towards. And I was very interested in the conversation with Arnold, this whole connection with December 6th. So I'd be very grateful if, Arnold, you'd be willing with Calvin, and we have another gentleman with us, Carlton Brown, to speak to the fact that should we build a bridge at the end of Juneteenth from that date to December 6th at long last to recognize that that time marker. So might we take up this thread for a moment among us?
You threw a lot out in that description of things that caused me to want to have a conversation on some of them. So if you're going to have, for instance, first one, John Hancock actually declares Chris Mazzata as the first American to die for this country in 1770. John Hancock writes that. He actually makes that statement. So not just one of, he is considered to be the first to die for this idea of America. Because I think, and I'm paraphrasing now, his statements was, "I will never be a slave to another man or country again." And so it wasn't an accident that he led the longshoremen. And I talked about art and how people's perspective changed. If you look up the picture of the Boston Massacre, you'll see some pictures will be an entire white shooting of some people rebelling. There's one very clearly where there's a darkened person that stands up front and he's out front and he takes the rounds. It's the earliest picture. And there's a black man. And then there's another one where there's a person that looks like he's maybe a shade darker laying on the ground while others have been shot. All of them were led to frame some people's discussions and arguments. So that's one thing. The second thing is that, of course, I will be more than happy to talk about Juneteenth as a platform for moving forward and making sure that we educate those who have mislabeled what the Emancipation Proclamation and Juneteenth is. And I don't know if a holiday is the right answer, as opposed to a day of celebration and specific actions that occur on that day on what should be probably called Freedom Day. And then identify actions to move forward on that one to make some sense. And then the last one that strikes a chord in me, because while the national anthem in its second verse, which we never sing, talks about slaves and hirelings that are being employed, the visceral response to the words, because the word slaves are in there, it's really talking to what the British had employed to help leverage their position against the United States. And in the writing, it captures those things. So I'm going to say up front, because I've not heard the words of a proposed other anthem. But I will tell you, recently, because I grew up singing, lifting your voice and sing as well. There's something that makes me uncomfortable in all of that space, that the idea of trying to look for other words. And for me, let me tell you where my heart always leans, that we, no kidding, clean up our national anthem by making sure that the second paragraph is no longer even inclusive in what is our national anthem, and so that there isn't a need for a Negro national anthem, but in fact, Lift Every Voice and Sing becomes both the celebration and triumph of a people. And so it's recognized as such because we as a nation are a new nation. And we can go into that, and if there's a panel on that discussion, I would love to participate on the panel. And I would tell you up front, I'd be almost the devil's advocate in it for myriad reasons, because as a person who only 4 or 5 years ago ever even knew there were other verses to the national anthem, and then once I saw them, I had to dissect my own feelings to say, you know, it doesn't even belong. It has no place. And by the way, it's a period. It captures a legal period and a perspective that when the other passages are in there, it becomes a distraction. Similar to the last version, the last paragraph or the last stanza of Lift Every Voice and Sing, when it says true to our native land. I've been to 9 countries in Africa, but that's not my native land. I'm in mine right now. I'm in South Carolina. That's my native land. And this country that we're in isn't the Constitution. This country is the state where our Constitution has been brought to thrive. And we became a new nation, but we're still an imperfect union growing, where we make mistakes because what we're trying to do, nobody else has. So I'd love to have that discussion with a lot of the smart minds, because like I said, I've got too much blood and too many generations invested in making it become, as Dr. Martin Luther King said, a better experiment, but still staying that shiny city on the hill. Now, I don't know how you feel about that, but that's my thought. And so you understand my visceral responses to some of those things.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Does someone want to introduce our other guest, Carlton?
Yes, this is Andrew Williams Jr. Just to let you know, by default, I stream content in order for there to be a wider exposure of the discussions that I believe are relevant to our community. So we actually have about 2,500 people in our group on Facebook. It's AHIABGA-TV. That's also being streamed now on New World Network. Mr. Carlton Brown is a co-member with me of the Friends of the African Union. He's been very much involved with discussions for decades about the African-American experience. So Carlton Brown, if you could be so kind and take this opportunity to unmute and introduce yourself. And I appreciate your being here as a guest as we're discussing these activities coming up here in Concord, Massachusetts. Mr. Carlton Brown, the floor is yours.
Thank you, my leadership, Mr. Andrew Williams Jr. My name is Carlton Brown of Carlton Brown Foundation. I have been advocating for the human rights of 1.6 billion people of African descent worldwide. Civil rights is something that is not human rights. We would like to see human rights. So what we're going to be introducing at Juneteenth is I want to talk about solutions to what we're going through and how we can work together, no matter what you feel, think, or believe, no matter what race you are, that we are change that we need. It's the 7 pillars of social justice from the hashtag Black Folks Plan book, where you can get on Amazon, written by my leadership, Chairman Herschel Daniels Jr. of Friends of the African Union. It says, number 1, take care of babies, kids, and teens, including when they are in school and after, with the emphasis on global history. You know, we talk about history. We're not only talking about the history of America. We're talking about the indigenous history of the world, from Kemet to 750 chieftains and kingdoms. There's so much for us to learn. You know, Africa history has the power to inspire generations of all races. Advanced placement of science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM, fashion, art, music, entertainment, fame, public service, and in sports and recreation. 2, take care of families in distress. 3, take care of those people involved in domestic violence. 4, take care of those people who do not have the means to feed themselves. 6, take care of those who people need health care and with, and number 7, take care of those people who need help to fulfill life as a part of the new global social compact with the United States of America expressed in the aspirations in its Declaration of Independence, the evolution as a nation from March 4th, 1789, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and as a superset of the document on human fraternity for the world, peace, and living together so as to leave no one behind through the 7 pillars of social justice. Our leadership, Mr. Andrew Williams, Friends of the African Union, also Mr. Herschel Daniels Jr., Sons and Daughters of Africa. Let's see here. Sons and Daughters of Africa. I can be specific here. The chairman is the Friends of the African Union, World African Diasporial Union, United States of Africa, New Future Foundation, Friends of the African Union Chamber of Commerce, Sons and Daughters of Africa Tour, 5 Points Youth Foundation, Robert Lee Harris Institute, and Carlton Brown Foundation. It says, you know, these are the changes that we're going to be talking about, implementing. He goes public on Juneteenth here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And that's what we're about today. We're about, let's work on human rights. Let's talk about human rights for people of African descent. That means all people, all around the world. And that's my introduction to Carlton Brown and the solutions. Because see, we can't change the past.
Right.
But what we can do together is change the present and the future. Thank you, Mr. Andrew.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brown. And he did mention among those organizations, the 5 Points Youth Foundation, for which I'm the president. Although I'm here right now in Concord, I am the president of 5 Points Youth Foundation. We are a signatory to that agreement. So again, I want to just briefly share my screen with you about here in Concord, because as Calvin Pearson mentioned, that he was a bit surprised about the history of African Americans in Concord. What I'm showing you now is a map of the area here in Concord. This was produced by the Robbins House. Actually, some years ago, they produced a smaller map, and the city took the opportunity to expand that. So I know this is too small for you to read, but I'm going to briefly just walk you through these areas here in Concord, Massachusetts. Now,
Andrew, can I jump in for just a moment?
Yes.
I think it's important to make sure that Calvin and Arnold, their schedules, their commitments, allow for this extended period. The purpose of my understanding was to discuss this Juneteenth and December 6th. If they have the time, I don't mean to interrupt you, but if they have the time for this more extended presentation, that's fine. But if not, let's check in and hear from both Calvin and Arnold so that we're honoring their schedules.
Thank you so much.
First of all, thank you very much. I appreciate you. I'm still driving, but I know that over some of the ground that I'm covering, I've got to be disruptive to some people when I come off, because it's a lot of sound. And I'm getting ready to exit the highway, so Thank you for doing that, and I'm going to break contact if that's okay.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing the time, General Bray. So yes, Stuart, any closing words before General Bray leaves us?
Well, just that at some point, could we have the conversation, General, with you and Calvin about the Juneteenth and the December 6th? Because if that's the facts, I would like that we end our gathering on Juneteenth by pointing to December 6th, a major celebration holiday, whatever term is most appropriate. So I would just say, I hope we can have that conversation.
I'm all for it. What you could do for me is, where is the crafter of the discussion? If we could do a couple things. One is at the front end, let's historically capture what Juneteenth was, what it really was, what it really became. And then at the very end, let's in fact, even put a teaser on the front end. When we frame what it actually did with General Gordon coming in to Texas, and then tell the audience, as we continue to explore the rest of this, whatever this event is, let's see what the platform is for the future beyond the celebration. And then at that very end, then give me, you can tell me whatever time, I'll make the explanations to the time available to, and if you like what you heard and it moved, I can do that time a little bit shorter, but I can also get Carl Mack, and we could go for a lot more length at the very end, just to go to where we want to go to, which is what's next, and then and make it meaningful, because to your point, celebrate. I like to party with a purpose. Okay, I just did Memorial Day, and I reminded folks that we should celebrate, but we celebrate because it honors the memory of those who fought for freedoms. And by celebrating, we honor them. We think about them, we reflect, and go forward. Veterans Day, you honor them because they are the reasons for Blood and Treasure. I hope I'm making some sense, because what I don't want to do is just make it an event where all of a sudden it has no meaning other than to make you feel good about something you could put in somebody's face. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's
Right.
I like to be a platform for the future.
It does indeed. Could we ask, could we connect you and Calvin so that you could have that conversation and then advise us? Would that
I'm
work?
good with that. That'll work.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you very much for being with us. And Calvin, I don't know, you may have miles to go before you sleep, but otherwise Andrew will continue with his presentation. If you can stay with us for Concord, great. If not, I'm glad we've connected, and we'll firm up these details.
Sure, I will be there as your guest for 4 days, so my time is your time. So whatever you got planned, I'll be there.
Great. So if you have a little bit of time still, Calvin, the general needs to slip off, I understand, but if you have a little bit of time, Andrew will take us on the tour of Concord.
And the great news for both General and Calvin, I sent this to your email. So you already have it in your email, what I'm about to share. But I do want to share it for a wider audience so they understand what's here in Concord. Also for Carlton Brown, I'd like for you to be aware of this as well, Carlton. So anyway, I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to take time to walk through this. Oh, first, let me give proper credit to where I sourced this from. I sourced this from the Robbins House, and let me briefly go to their website. This, I think, will probably be the key to what we do here in Concord. They've been here in Concord. Well, let me just walk you through it rather than paraphrase it. I'll just share it with you directly, if I may. Technology is only great when it works, so let me find the right screen. Thank you for your patience. Yes. So this is accessible at robinshouse.org, ROBBINSHOUSE.org. And for those that can't read my screen, let me move things around so I can read my screen. This is Robbins House, Concord's African American history. This is the actual location here on the left of the Robbins House, and it's 544 square feet, historic early 19th century house, formerly inhabited by the first generation of descendants of formerly enslaved African-American Revolutionary War veteran Caesar Robbins, and by fugitive slave Jack Garrison. I actually have the opportunity to pass by this house almost on a daily basis with Stuart-Sinclair because it's right across the street from the old manse, which we'll discuss shortly. But at the Robbins House, you'll also be able to learn the history of the occupants of the Robbins House, and that's next to the right there. You see, we can take a walking tour. But before I do want to share with you the history of Robbins House so that those that are in our audience now can begin making your plans. I'm telling you in advance, since I'm here, I'm always a goodwill ambassador for brands around the world. And so now consider me to be your brand ambassador for Concord, Massachusetts. And it'll be the Robbins House that begins our journey. So here, the history of the Robbins House begins actually with the people themselves. Pathways to Independence. The 54 square foot house, built in the early 1820s, was originally located on an isolated farm overlooking the great meadows along the Concord River. The first two families who lived here were descendants of Caesar Robbins, a Revolutionary War patriot. In 1823, Caesar's son Peter Robbins purchased a new two-room house and over 13 acres for $260. Peter and his wife Fatima resided in the west side of the house. Peter's sister Susan, her husband Jack Garrison, and their children occupied the east side. Peter Hutchison, Fatima's relative, bought the house in 1852. He and his large family were the last to live in this house on the farm. But this is critically important. It's in 2010, the house was saved from demolition and moved and restored. And today it embodies the determination of Caesar Robbins and his family to support themselves on the land and to shape their own destinies as free men and women, and serve to inspire conversations about race and social justice issues. So Carlton Brown, I'm calling you out to make sure you put this on your list of important places in America that are critical, because Concord, this location here, is the center of the center of the center, not just of the American Revolution and evolution, but also the shot heard around the world that launched this freedom drive that we're on now. But in particular, to make it more personal to you, we'll share with you the actual residents of the Robbins House, some of whom have already been mentioned in our earlier discussions. First, of course, you have Caesar Robbins from 1745 to 1822, then Peter Robbins, and then a very important person, Susan Garrison, then Jack Garrison. But earlier we mentioned Ellen Garrison, and I'm going to begin here with her because there is a movement here in Concord to have her name to be the one that is representative of the African-American experience here in Concord. And we're going to get your help, because what we're doing is we're expanding this campaign that the Robbins House is supporting from a local neighborhood basis to a national and international basis, because Carlton, as you know, and Calvin, we're in the International Decade for People of African Descent. So I'm suggesting that what we do is we use this center of the center of the center to become what becomes a vortex around the world and tie together all of our strands. For those of you who do not know who Ellison Garrison is, she was, in fact, 69. She had a lifespan of 69 years. She's Caesar Robbins' granddaughter. She was an anti-slavery activist. She was the daughter and granddaughter of men who have been enslaved. She spent her life educating newly freed people and fighting for their civil rights. Born and raised in this house, Ellen's activism began in Concord. Early on, she learned about racial discrimination and followed in her mother's footsteps as an anti-slavery activist. At 12, she marched in a Concord parade, hand in hand with a white schoolmate, beneath the gaze of curiosity, surprise, ridicule, and admiration. Ellen signed many petitions as a way to make her voice heard. After the Civil War, Ellen taught newly freed people during Reconstruction. Her application explained, "I have a great desire to go and labor among the freedmen of the South. I think it is our duty as a people to spend our lives in trying to elevate our own race. Who can feel for us if we do not feel for ourselves?" I hope that strikes a chord with you, Carlton Brown, because this is, in fact, the basis of everything that we're trying to accomplish. And she's known as Concord's Rosa Parks. But what Stuart and I have believed is that she is the esteemed predecessor to Rosa Parks. She deserves her own recognition, not as a wannabe something, but as who she is. And that's where I'm asking both Calvin and Carlton to help me get this done. In 1866, Ellen tested the nation's first Civil Rights Act of 1866 in court, almost a century before Rosa Parks took her seat on an Alabama bus. Ellen sat in a segregated waiting room in Baltimore, Maryland train station and was forcibly ejected. She felt it was her duty to test new law. She says, "I feel as though I ought to strive to maintain my rights, and it will be a stand for others." True to her calling, in the hostility of the post-Reconstruction South, Ellen's teaching post was defunded. She followed Kansas Exeter's in 1879 to again teach newly freed people. After a decade in Kansas as a teacher, prairie farmer's wife and stepmother, Ellen moved with the family to an egalitarian anti-slavery community in Pasadena, California, where she's buried with anti-slavery activists. So as I say, I'm here in Concord, but I am from California. So our task is to connect those dots together. So Ellen Harrison, well, I'll complete my presentation there and ask if there are any questions before I go forward, or if Stuart, allow you to make any comments or questions, or Carlton or Calvin, now's the time to say something before we begin to wrap this up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will support that 1,000,000%, and I will do a campaign in order to make people awareness. Can you make sure that I get a link, maybe on the Unity page,
Yes.
with tags, so I can go to work and start developing media and conversation centered around her and the Robinsons?
Well, not only that, sir, but the person here, I had an opportunity to actually meet the director. So I would hope to introduce you personally. I want you to convey your commitment to him directly. And then I'd like for him to share with you and us ways that we can not just make this a one-on-one collaboration, but expand it throughout our entire network, Carlton Brown. So you know how we do it.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Calvin Pearson, you were about to say something. We're at your convenience.
Well, there's a lot of correlation between Virginia and Massachusetts. And I mean, you had Ellen Garrison, we had Mary Pete. So all the examples that you keep showing in Concord, I can show you similar examples here in Virginia. And I may try to correlate the differences or the things that happen in Massachusetts that correlates to what we were doing here in Virginia, because there's so much correlation between the dates. And I may touch on that briefly when I get to Concord. We talked about the first Thanksgiving here in Virginia, and then Plymouth wanted to claim the first Thanksgiving in there. So there's a lot of correlation and misinformation between the two states that I'll probably talk about.
I love that. I love that, because that was really, I have to be honest with you, Mr. Pearson, that's what I was hoping that would be the outcome, because the more you actually feel it and see it, then the more you can actually, I think, tie it, bring it home. But I do want to also expand the idea to take a look here at what people may not realize is the true extent of the Underground Railroad. But here's the thing, Calvin, on the right-hand side over here, out in the ocean, right? On the left at my bottom is Virginia. This is going up right into Massachusetts. So you're absolutely correct. Not only are there similarities between the two, but it is, in fact, I think, critically important that we address these issues. As you mentioned, Ann Shin is involved with the Middle Passage Monument Project, and Boston has a marker that is part of a nationwide network of symbols that document the transatlantic slave trade route. So as Carlton Brown knows, it's Queen Mother Dolores Blakely, that we all respect and uphold, that is from Harlem, that person who traveled back in 1999 over 200 miles out into the ocean to drop onto the floor a Middle Passage monument on the ocean floor to represent our Ma'afa, or our Holocaust. So Calvin Pearson, again, part of this effort that we're going through is to elevate the conversation and bring it, as you say, from point to point, but then spread that point globally, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, yes, it does. That's what my plan is.
Fantastic. Well, with that, gentlemen, we've put in about an hour. We're putting just a little bit under an hour. We want to leave time so we can insert public service announcements, commercials, because the idea is to package these presentations as professionally as anything out there on broadcast television, so that we can syndicate these conversations and attract a wider audience as we go forward. So Stuart-Sinclair Weeks, unless there's some closing thought that you would like to offer, I'm about to wrap this up. Oh, we do have Chaplain James Mercy Obentumidi from Nigeria. Are you there, Captain James or Chaplain James?
Yes, I'm there. Thank you so much, Ambassador Andrew. I'll be listening to you.
Yes. Well, can we see who we're talking to?
Oh, sorry, it's dark here and it's late.
Oh yeah. Well, just to let you know, this is Chaplain James Obentumidi from Lagos, Nigeria. I have the opportunity and pleasure to represent his organization. It's called the World Humanitarian Organization for Peace and Equity. That's w-hope.org. I'm the international chairperson for its organization. Just today, we celebrated around the world a launch of WOPE to bring disaster relief to the world as part of our effort to connect the dots, not just in Africa, but around the world. Stuart-Sinclair Weeks, that's what I wanted to mention to you earlier. All the things we're talking about Juneteenth have a relevance, not only because this is the International Decade for People of African Descent, but it is, in fact, the last year of the first 10-year implementation plan of the African Union's Agenda 2063. That's from 2013 to 2023. And that is a blueprint that the Friends of the African Union has devised and developed to align our efforts in the diaspora with those of the African continent. So James, Chaplain James, has been with us now for at least 3 years, understanding that Juneteenth has as much relevance on the African continent as it does here on American streets. So James, could you speak to that before you leave, or could you introduce yourself briefly and let us wind up? James, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I think I've really known Ambassador Brown before now we met, in several conferences. So it has been a good friend. And this is my first time of meeting with the Center for African Studies. I've not met the Honorable I'm seeing here and Honorable Calvin.
Yes.
This is the first time of meeting them. And I want to thank God for this opportunity meeting with them and being part of this program. And I want to say thank you to Ambassador Andrew. He has been up and doing everywhere. I do say him everywhere. We meet everywhere. So thank you for doing this for humanity. And we will always try our best to see what we can do, at least to save our people, to have our people, to promote peace, to promote unity, to promote oneness wherever we find ourselves, and to respect the dignity, the culture of each country and each ethnic groups. So thank you for being here. Ambassador Andrew, thank you so much.
Well, you know, I'm going to put you to work, right? So we need you to bring Juneteenth to Nigeria.
Yes, it's
We need Woke to have
possible.
an event on Juneteenth, because the great news is that when it's your daytime there, or when it's your daytime there, it's nighttime here. So we can do it both in Africa and America. So I'm going to count on you to rebroadcast what we do here in America, there in Nigeria.
Yes, count that on me. It is done. Let's make it that way. So we talk more on how to go about it and when we go about it. So it is done. We work on that. So thank you for bringing me on board too.
All right, thank you. It'll be about 4 o'clock your time, which is about 9 o'clock in Los Angeles, 12 o'clock in here. So it'll be about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that.
Yes, I think that will be okay, because now it is after 12.
Right.
We are already on Monday here.
Exactly.
Yes, we're already on Monday here. So we'll look at the appropriate time. Like you have said, 4 p.m. here might be okay. So
Perfect.
we invite people to join the program. So I just saw the link on Facebook. So I just have to come in. When I say it is you anchoring the program, and then I've seen Ambassador Brown already. So I just have to come in to see what is happening. So the great thing is going to come to Africa, Nigeria too. So we'll plan that and work on it.
Excellent. Well, that's how the Andrew Networks work. We work. All right. Thank you so much. Stuart-Sinclair Weeks. Now we've expanded our conversation from national to international. So the ball's in your court to close us out.
Well, just thank you all, one and all, for you're the genius that you bring, the commitment that you bring. I think often of Dr. King's words that unearned suffering is redemptive. And it's that redemptive impulse that's keeping the show on the road here in our aspiring new world. So I can't put sufficiently in words my gratitude to my Black brothers and sisters for all you've borne and the way in which you've borne it in the spirit of redemption. So thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to ways we can work together ever more fully.
Wonderful. Well, thanks to our audience for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Ubuntu. I am who I am because of who we all are to each other and ourselves. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Thank you, Ambassador Andrew. Thank you.